Good morning, good evening, and good night, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Sly Report. I am your host, Gold D Ranks, first mate of the Gold Fang crew. And today, we are going to give you the rundown on One Piece, chapters 11:15 and 11:16. So, here comes the usual part where I would say, without further ado, let's get into it. But just a heads up, we are doing something a little bit different this week. We're breaking the chapters down into sections where we're talking about one specific aspect of the chapters. Then we're going to move on to another specific aspect. So how we're going to do it now is we're going to start talking about the message. We're going to cover the whole message that VegaPunk gets out in these two chapters. Then we're going to go to the reactions to the message from the 5 elders and important marine officials of the world and whoever else is reacting. Then after that, we're going to go to the world reaction, the people who are allied or not allied, former enemies, current comrades, former comrades. We're going to go see everybody's reaction and talk about that. And then finally, at the end of this review, we're going to talk about where all the Straw Hats are individually and what's going on with them. So, now, without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, wait, one more thing I forgot. This video specifically, there will be no chapter panels in the corners as usual. We're gonna try it this way for this video, and then if you guys feel like we can put the chapter panels in here for this format as well, then let us know. Comment, talk to me on Twitter. You know where I be at with this stuff. So just let me know how you feel like, or if you prefer the panels or you prefer no panels with this new style. Let me know. So now, without further ado, let's get into it. So as I said, we'll be doing this a bit differently this time. So we're gonna start where VegaPunk picks up with his message in chapter 11:15. Then we're gonna go through his entire message that he says in 11:15. Then we're gonna go through what he says in 11:16. And then we're going to go from there. So, we pick up in 11:15 with the message specifically, and VegaPunk is talking about only he has access to a handful of the poneglyphs, and that from what he has read from these poneglyphs, the narrative through line for these is clearly that there was a great war in the history of this world in the distant past. He says that Joy Boy, who was the first pirate, according to him, faced an enemy that was the allied powers of the 20 kingdoms that would later become the world government. So, that's where we're at right when we start 11:15, and we're talking about what VegaPunk is telling the world and his message to the people. So, with that, I want to just say that it is notable that VegaPunk says he has access to a handful of poneglyphs. Previously, he said, it was implied by the elders that he's continuing the work of the O'Haran scholars. So, to me, and I don't know if I'm just overreaching with this or if this is just an educated guess or whatever, but to me, VegaPunk is clearly either capable of translating or he can just straight up read the poneglyphs. I don't know how he learned this. Maybe he learned it through going through the records of O'Hara. But VegaPunk can clearly translate or read these poneglyphs. And from what he's gathered, this is the information that he has. So, he continues that about Joy Boy, he mentioned that he was born in a specific kingdom, a technologically advanced kingdom. One so far advanced that it would put the technology of the modern era to shame. He also says that he can't presume to know which side was right and wrong in this clash because he doesn't have the full details. Going back to what he said previously about how he's not going to add his own interjections in here. He's not going to make up things or make up facts. He's only going to go off what he knows. But he does say that this conflict was a battle of ideals. The ideals of the Joy Boy faction and the ideals of the 20 Kings. He also says how the alliance of the 20 Kingdoms was probably the only way to oppose the faction that Joy Boy represented. So, I don't know what kind of technology or what kind of advancements this kingdom had, but clearly they was outpacing the rest of the world. If these 20 kings felt like they had to ally their entire nations together just to take on what we assume to be this one nation, this one faction. Now, it could be said that it wasn't just this one nation or one faction, because we do see that certain people in certain places know more than other people. You know what I'm saying? Certain people have different connections to what that ancient kingdom was. Like the people of Wano or Zunisha itself, or you see the Iron Giant, or you see the actual giants and the minks. So I'm not sure what exactly this kingdom was or who all the inhabitants were of this kingdom, but it's safe to say that this one kingdom was so far ahead of everyone else that it took everyone else coming together to stop this one kingdom. So we're going to continue. We do see, while VegaPunk is talking about the 20 kingdoms allying to fight against Joy Boy and his faction, we do see a silhouetted scene of Joy Boy facing off against what we can presume to be a couple of the kings of these nations that allied together. We're going to continue with VegaPunk's message, and he continues to say that, as I said before, that the kingdom that came before was so advanced that even he, the most scientific genius mind on the planet currently, can't really comprehend or struggles understanding all of the technology that was once readily available to this entire kingdom. So there's that. And I just want it to be known that this man has made functional clones. He's functionally cloned devil fruit abilities. He's made the mother flame. He's made food machines, flying shoes. Like, he's made a whole bunch of things that even we in our world don't have. He's made technology that even we would consider to be sci-fi. But to him, the technology that was in that ancient kingdom is even more advanced than that. With all the accomplishments that VegaPunk has made and has done in his time and his life, they pale in comparison to what this ancient kingdom was able to pull off. Crazy. So we must continue with VegaPunk's talk, though. So as he is continuing to talk, we briefly see an image of VegaPunk, the Iron Giant, and Zunisha as he continues his message, saying that the Void Century ended with Joy Boy's defeat. And that's important because we do know that Zunisha was committed some kind of crime, and that's why Zunisha was cursed to walk the earth, and has been walking the earth without ceasing until he's not allowed to do any other action until he gets an order from certain people like Momo. But that happened as a result of the end of the war. We see Zunisha apologizing when Luffy awakens to Joy Boy, when he comes to Wano country. He apologizes. We see the same thing with the Iron Giant. The Iron Giant supposedly hasn't been active since its attack on the Holy Land. But as soon as it becomes active again, it's apologizing to Joy Boy. Now, does this mean this Iron Giant has some level of sentience, some level of humanity to it? Maybe. We will see. But the important thing is, the Void Century ended in Joy Boy's defeat, which is what VegaPunk is telling the world. But we also know that this came with other consequences for those involved. So, as he's talking about that, he continues that the aftermath of this war left scars on the world that haven't even been healed. He continues how everyone knows how harsh the seas are, how harsh it is to cross the seas, how most people don't even risk it, how most people will just stay and live their entire life on the island that they're born in, never knowing another culture other than the one where they live, because it's just treacherous to get from one place to the next most times. VegaPunk says that during the Void Century, this was not an issue. He says that what the islands and the places that they are living on now in the current world are the remnants, the continental remnants of the land masses that were swallowed up by the ocean. VegaPunk continues to say he knows how hard this is to believe, but there really were multiple vast continents spread across the One Piece world, and that all of that was sunk, and that it's not hard to see how and why there's such misinformation and such a blank gap in history with information when everything that was a part of that century is now 200 meters below sea level. 200 meters. So VegaPunk is essentially saying that during this Void Century, during this 100-year war that took place, the sea levels rose 200 meters. Crazy. Crazy. So, he continues with, that begs the question, how did that happen? And most people would assume that it was a natural disaster. But VegaPunk is saying, and he's saying to the people, he's telling the people, it was not a natural disaster. This was a man-made calamity. And he explains why. He said if this was a natural disaster, there would be warning signs that the planet would show and then be recorded within the planet itself, right? Hundreds of years before this event even happened. Because the planet would be preparing itself for a huge shift in its ecological environment. But that didn't happen. As far as he can tell with his instruments and going back and looking into the past, there was no indication of any natural shifts that would indicate this grand rise in the sea levels. What VegaPunk is saying to the people now is that the sea levels rose due to an ancient weapon, due to the use of an ancient weapon. And that if his suspicions are correct, which he feels they are with the evidence that has been provided by the happenings a couple days ago, that there is an ancient weapon that is still around, still exists, that is waiting to be used. And that this war that started during the Void Century has yet to be concluded. And that is the end of the information we get in 11:15. We're going to move on to what he's saying in 11:16, and then we're going to go back to 11:15 and get the reactions from, we're going to start with the reactions from the elders and Marines, and then we're going to go into the reactions for everyone else, and then we're going to get to the Straw Hats. So, we're going to keep going with VegaPunk's message. So, as we start 11:16, VegaPunk continues with his message, saying that he has something else that he must apologize for and that he must confess to the people, saying that his only goal as a scientist was to make an energy source that will provide unlimited energy for the world, saying that he believes that that would lead to a life of abundance for all peoples. He continues that the breakthrough that he has come up with, which is the mother flame, has been marred because a small fragment of it was stolen, and he has to take full responsibility for this. As he continues on, though, VegaPunk says that 2 weeks after the mother flame fragment was stolen, he observed a bright light in the sky over the Lelucia kingdom. And a short time after that, the entire nation vanished without a trace. Not long after that, his instruments started to detect the earthquake. He continues that he is sure that the mother flame was used because it is the only thing that could supply the energy required to do what was done. VegaPunk continues that his own invention was used to power the ancient weapon. He says the motives and the origin of the perp are a mystery to him, but the bottom line is he is an accessory to mass murder, and he bows his head and asks the people of the world to forgive him for that. I just want to focus on that for a second because that is a W thing to do. As a man of science, as a man who is not directly responsible for this tragedy, but as a man who created the power source for those empowered to be able to use these weapons, he's taking responsibility for that. And I commend him for that. But also, I can't fully be like, bro, this is your fault, because he was just doing his job. He was doing his job and also doing what he thought would be for the betterment of all mankind. So, he continues with, after his apology, after bowing his head, he continues by saying that this actually only proves the plausibility of saying that the flood during the Void Century, the 200-meter flood, was man-made. He says there were once 3 great ancient weapons, and it said that Joy Boy attempted to ensure they would be passed on to future generations. He then says this begs the question, why would he do that? And that such ambiguity makes it hard to determine which side was right and wrong in this conflict. He does, however, say that the answers are coming, and that you could consider this message that he's delivering now as a warning to the people that the days where they are going to be in fear of the world flooding are soon to be at hand. Which is crazy in itself, because I really believe that VegaPunk has no idea that Emu is still alive. I think he thinks that the elders are still perpetrating this war in place of whoever was there. Maybe I'm wrong. I would have to go back and reread some chapters and reread some dialogue and see what exactly VegaPunk was saying previously about who was in charge of the 20 kingdoms and all of that, or the world government, or that organization, that faction, and what he has to say about that. I'll have to go back and double check, but I believe he doesn't know of Emu's current existence. I believe he knows Emu was a person, but I do also believe that he doesn't know that Emu is currently still running the world government. So, VegaPunk continues with his message that the Void Century is an enigma. But there are people in this world currently who know this history in its entirety. He continues that the Roger Pirates should know the secrets of the world. And this shocks and outrages a lot of people around the world, but we're going to get to that. But as he's saying this information, he also continues to ask why the Roger Pirates didn't act on this information. Why they just faded into obscurity. Why they never told anyone. Why they never shared this information with anybody else in the world. And we have somebody who's going to give an answer to that. But right now we're focusing on VegaPunk's words. So that's the end of the message that we have so far with these two chapters. And with that, I just think it's interesting that VegaPunk is, on the one hand, informing the people of something they needed to know. But on the other hand, based off of the propaganda and things that are going on in the world currently, while his message is being delivered, and even right before his message was started, that this is putting certain people to be looked at in a negative light. I know he's not trying to cast judgment on any one specific person or any one specific faction, but his refusal to take a side, or not even take a side, to just give the information without assigning a moral standpoint to each side or to each party that he's mentioning, is going to cause confusion amongst the people. Because now there can be people there can be people who are going to say, oh, the Roger Pirates knew all of this, why didn't they do anything? But we as readers know, and the Roger Pirates know, okay, they got there too early. VegaPunk's also assuming that all of these ancient weapons are actual weapons, and not something that could be a living person or a living being. Like, as we know, Poseidon is Shirahoshi. So when the Roger Pirates found out this information, Shirahoshi wasn't born yet. So they couldn't really act on the information the way they wanted to. It wasn't time. And we know that. The Roger Pirates know that. But VegaPunk doesn't know that because he only has a piece of the story. But what he does know is that the Roger Pirates made it the last tale. He knows the Pirate King found Joy Boy's treasure. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the case, he's going off of the fact that, okay, well, if they knew this for this long, why did they not say anything? Why did they not take action to try and stop whatever was happening? And that could lead other people to being like, okay, well, why is this like this? When we know otherwise. When we know Pluton is literally buried in Wano. It's there for the safety of Wano. And once Pluton leaves, Wano will be exposed. We know Shirahoshi is Poseidon. We know she is actually allied with Luffy. But that's a person. You know what I'm saying? Pluton, we can assume, is actual ship, a weapon. Shirahoshi is a person. So when it comes down to VegaPunk's talking about these ancient weapons as he is, it can lead to people looking at things in a way of like, oh, say the news that the Straw Hats know where Poseidon is, or know of Poseidon, and it's in Fishman Island, and Fishman Island is allied with the Straw Hat Pirates. Then people are going to start looking at the Fishmen and the Straw Hats like, well, you have an ancient weapon, what are you doing with it? Then what if, even further than that, what if the news of Shirahoshi actually being the ancient weapon gets out? Then you're going to have people looking at the Fishmen. There's already Fishman discrimination, but you're going to have people looking at Fishmen like, oh, so y'all had this world-ending weapon and didn't say nothing for all this time? You know what I'm saying? Are y'all plotting something? Like, what's going on? And then that also can be looked at as, well, damn, if the sea levels rose because of ancient weapons in the past, and the mermaid princess is an ancient weapon, and they live under the seas, 2 and 2, people might be like, oh, what's stopping the fishmen from raising the sea level? You know what I'm saying? It leaves a lot of room for people to do guesswork, or people to make assumptions about what is what and what's going on with what. But that was the VegaPunk message part of these 2 chapters. Now we're gonna go back to chapter 11:15, and we're gonna find out what the elders are doing and how they are reacting to all this information that's being shared upon the world, and also a couple of Marines. So let's get to it. So, needless to say, these old men are not happy. These old men are not happy in the slightest. So, first we're going to go back to chapter 11:15, and we're going to pick up with the first elder we see reacting to VegaPunk's message and everything that's going on. And that would be Saint Warkery. So, while VegaPunk is delivering his message, we get some random Marines comments on what they're hearing. Some of them talking about, so us, like, we are the enemy? And then a couple of them are like, oh, well, that makes sense. He said Joy Boy was a pirate after all, so of course we would be the enemy. But while they're pondering that, doing that on their ships out there or whatever, we cut to Saint Warkery, who is still chasing Luffy, Dory, and Broggy. Luffy is still in Gear 5, and that's pretty much all we get from him. He does scream out VegaPunk's name in anger, so there's that. He's clearly peeved off, but right now his focus is on Luffy, Dory, Broggy, chasing them down, trying to eliminate the threat of Sun God Nika, Joy Boy, Luffy. We then cut up to the Labo phase, where we see Saint Mars, and this man is just walking through the hallways of the Labo phase using Conqueror's Hockey to knock out every and any Den Mushi in the vicinity. He's got a look on his face of just, he's upset and mad, and he is just like, I need to knock this transmission out as soon as possible. So he's just blasting Conqueror's Hockey, walking through the lab. All you see is Den Mushi just falling from everywhere as he's just walking. Like, still, the transmission's still going on, so he's still mad. He's like, all these snails falling down ain't the one. So, Warkery and Mars are on 2 different missions right now. Warkery is actively still trying to stop Luffy and the giants from escaping. Mars, his concern is on stopping this message, as it has been for a couple chapters now. But I just feel like all of their focus should be on stopping this message, if it's that important. They can always deal with Luffy at a later date, you feel me? But stopping this message should be the priority for these niggas. I don't know what Walker is doing. Like, I don't know if it's just because he doesn't have a way to really get up to the Labo phase to help right now. So he's doing what he can. Same with Jupiter. But, it is what it is. I'm not going to make too big a deal out of it. I just feel like their efforts should be more concerned on stopping this message. Because as we're going to see it in when I get to it, another one of the elders is also just wasting time. He does get his act together, but there's no reason you shouldn't have been already on the way there. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, we'll get to it. So, that's happening. So, The next elder we see is Nasujuro. Now, Nasujuro is still tussling with the Bonnie faction. You know what I'm saying? Bonnie and the Giants, Sanji, Frankie, Atlas, all of them over there just trying to survive, honestly. Sanji's been thrown to the ground. One of the Giants, I don't know if it's Oimoy, or Kashi that's on the ground, but they're interchangeable to me at this point. But the point is, Nasujuro is dealing with them instead of, going to stop the message. And to my earlier point about workery, because we're about to see Nasujuro do something that I feel like all of the elders should just know how to do. But the fact that they're not doing it is what's concerning me. You feel me? So Nasujuro is tangled up with Bonnie. Bonnie's attacking Nasujuro, saying, don't let the old man use his sword. He can cut anything. So, just hold bread down. We about to jump this man. Bonnie's still in giant form, by the way. So Nasujuro kicks off one of the giants and is preparing to attack Bonnie as he screams her name. Probably doesn't scream it, but he's just like, Bonnie! And he grabs his sword and he's about to unleash a full swing. So as he's swinging his sword at Bonnie, we see the man, the boy, always standing on business, Cuddy Flam, Cyborg Frankie, come out of nowhere and he kind of clotheslines Bonnie just to get her out of the way, out of the path of the sword swing, and it works. But as he's doing this, Bonnie reverts back to her original self, and Frankie ends up catching her. They fall onto the ship, but the sword slash ain't stopped. Nasujuro has cut one of the figureheads clean off of one of the giant ships. Now, when Frankie and Bonnie land, he's confused. He's like, what's going on? You're small again. And Bonnie's like, I can't maintain distorted futures for that long. So it is what it is with that. But the focus right here now is on Nasujuro. Nasujuro, after getting his attack off on Bonnie, we hear a little bit more of VegaPunk's message, and then Nasujuro now is turning his attention to trying to stop this message. So he starts to use Geppo in his half horse form, which is actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of cool. Geppo with the horse legs while you still got the whole upper body of a man, and you know what I'm saying? It's hard. So he uses Geppo. He skywalks up towards the Labo phase, and he says, how much do you intend to say, VegaPunk? And as he is saying this, he thinks to himself that there are too many living voices in the Labo stratum, so he can't pinpoint what he's looking for, which is the special dungeon mushy. So as he's thinking this, he takes his sword and cuts the entire bottom half of the Labo stratum off, and sends all of the Seraphim, all of the CP agents that have been captured or now just chilling in the basement with the Seraphim of the Labo phase, all of them just come falling down to the main island of Egghead, because this man has chopped the Labo phase in half. Crazy. So, as this is happening, VegaPunk continues his message, and we don't really get that much more from any of the elders or anybody like a Marine, admiral or vice admiral or anything like that from this chapter. But what we do get at the very end of this chapter, when Vegapunk is saying that the Great War is still ongoing, we do cut to Emu and Mary Joa in his little butterfly room, just chilling. And right at the end of the chapter, we get a close-up on Emu's eye as he's listening to Vegapunk just drop this knowledge on the world. So, piggybacking off the end of 11:15, which ended with Emu, we're going to go right into 11:16 that starts with Emu. Because as Vegapunk, the world is reacting to Vegapunk and what he just said. And as they are reacting to this, we get a shot of Emu, and he is just in his little room. She is in his room, just looking at a picture of what we can assume to be Vivi's ancestor, Lily. So there's that. I don't know what more to make of that, but that is indeed happening. So as that's happening and Vegapunk continues with his message, we get some more Marine reactions. We get a reaction from a Marine who runs the base that was getting his milk from the Lulusia Kingdom, from Moda, from the Ace cover story. We also get Moda's reaction. She's with the Revolutionary Army, but we're not talking about them right now. But we do get the Marine captain, commander, admiral, vice admiral, whatever his rank is. I don't really remember right now. But we do see him, and he's reacting to this, and he's the news, and he's like trying to process everything that's happening, all the information he's getting as a person in the Marines who actively had a relationship going on with the people of Lulusia. So, while Vegapunk is breaking all of this stuff down, talking to people, telling the people about what he's seeing, telling the people about the information that he does have, we do cut over to see Sengoku. And he's with Suru, and Sengoku is stress eating. Like, this man is stressed out. He's not even the fleet admiral anymore, but he's just like, I know this isn't good. I know this isn't going to lead to any kind of good right now. And there's nothing I can really do about it. So I'm just going to eat my snacks. And he's stuffing his face. And he's with Suru, and Suru calls him out on it. He's like, hey, man, don't choke. Like, slow down. So these old heads, I find this interesting because these old heads, I feel like they know more than they're letting on. Like, I feel like they know a lot more about things that have happened in the past, especially ones that were high ranking, like Suru, Sengoku, Garp, Kong, like people like that. I feel like they know more than what they letting on. But they also are a part of the system, so they're trying to uphold justice on their end while also keeping these secrets. Maybe not Garp. Garp's a member of the D-Clan, so I'm not sure how much the world government would trust him with certain information. But then again, him and Sengoku being homies, and Sengoku knowing, assumedly based off of the conversation he had with Law back in Dressrosa, assumedly knowing what the Willity means, and based off of Garp's good friendship with, not good friendship, but like the respectable friendship they had between Garp and Roger, like I feel like they know a little more than they're letting on, but they also feel like they can fix what the problem is from within the system. You feel me? So I just think people like seeing people's reaction, like Sengoku, Garp, Suru, especially when it comes to the Marine side of things, I feel like those are the important reactions because those are the people that possibly know a little more than they're letting on. So We also cut to Marine HQ at one point in chapter 1116, and we see Fleet Admiral Sakazuki. And this man is stressed. Capital word. Not capital letter, capital word. Stressed. He got smoke coming out his mouth. He done burnt the cigar in his fist, his magma fist, because he done just ignited that shit out of sheer annoyance and just anger. Because he's like, damn, Vegapunk, are you just going to explain everything? And I get why he's stressed out, because he's inherited the problems that Sengoku and Kong and all those of the Roger era and the Rocks era. He's inherited all of their problems plus his own problems. So yeah, it's safe to say that the Marines, the high-ranking Marines, the 5 elders, they're stressed out. But we have one more person who's also stressed the fuck out. So, while Vegapunk has been delivering this lore drop of the century, right? York, the Vegapunk trader, is having a mini meltdown. She can't wrap her head around how the main Stella Vegapunk figured all of this out. How he knew this, how he knew what was happening, how he figured out everything that was going on. But while she's having this meltdown, while she's wigging out in her brain, she actually comes up with the solution to the problem for the elders. And she contacts the elders. She contacts them while she's having this epiphany. And she's like, hey, I figured it out. I know where the transponder is. They're like, are you sure? She's like, yes, I am also a Vegapunk. I know where it is. The transponder is in the Iron Giant. He's guarding it, she says to them. Crazy. Because people have been saying, what is this Iron Giant doing? How is it going to come into play? Like, why is it moving all of a sudden now? And this is the reason why. Because it has the transponder on it or near it, and it's protecting it. And it's the reason that this broadcast is being broadcast right now. Like, it's crazy. You get a shot at Iron Giant walking through the flames of the island. Nobody can stop it. So now this is setting up a conflict where all of these elders are about to attack this Iron Giant. This piece of technology that has been around since the Void Century, that has now been activated by the presence of Luffy. We're going to see, hopefully, these guys take on this Iron Giant. So, we don't get any more updates on the locations or anything going on with the elders. We do see Jupiter. He's also down on the ground where Worker is, and he's just sucking stuff up and causing general havoc. I don't know why him, Jupiter, and Workery aren't using Geppo, or maybe they can in their hybrid in their animal forms. I don't see why Workery wouldn't be able to. He has legs, but also has mad hops, as we've seen before. But maybe Jupiter can't do it in his sandworm form, no legs, just a guess. But hybrid form, human form, turn back to normal. I mean, I guess it's a good thing they're still on the main island, because that's where the Iron Giant is. And now Saturn, Mars, and Nasujuro have to get back down there to actually go after the Iron Giant. So I guess it's a good thing that 2 of them are actually still down there. But if you're under my thing is, if you're under the impression as an elder that the transponder is up in the labo phase, why aren't you up in the labo phase trying to stop this? Especially if what VegaPunk is saying is so detrimental to your empire. But that's neither here nor there. We're done with this section. We're gonna move on. We're gonna take it back to 11:15, and now we're gonna get the world reaction. We're gonna start talking about how people around the world are reacting to these facts. So, without further ado, stay tuned. I'll be right back with that part. So, back at 11:15, right at the beginning, the chapter starts with the land of Wano, specifically Momo and Kinemon reacting to VegaPunk's message. So Momo comments on how Joy Boy is also a pirate like Luffy. And Kinemon, once he hears this, he questions Momo on how he's familiar with the name. We know that Momo and Yamato, by extension, because that's who he got Odin's journal from, Momo read Odin's journal. Momo knows a lot more about the truth of the world than I would say even VegaPunk, to be honest. At least I believe so. Based off of what Odin wrote down in his journal during his adventure with Roger, based on him actually being the Laugh Tale and actually knowing the secrets of the world. And that's why he was trying to prepare Wano to be opened up to the world. So, Momo is another interesting person that I hope we cut back to again. Not just these couple times we're going to cut back to him in these two chapters, but I hope we get more on what Momo knows, you know? But that's neither here nor there. Right now, we got to keep moving. We go over to G4 Naval Base in a cell where we see the fake Straw Hat Pirates, and now they're the fake Kid Pirates, and they're just talking smack, listening to VegaPunk's message. Tomorrow Black is like, oh, I could beat Joy Boy, he's dead, Joy Toy, whatever, da 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 da. You know, it's just a little funny scene showing you, okay, yeah, these characters, they're still around. So we get that, but don't forget the importance of Momo and Kinemon. They showed them two specifically for a reason. Don't forget the importance of Wano Country. So, VegaPunk continues with his message. We know what the elder's doing. We know what VegaPunk's talking about. While he is delivering this message, we cut to Zoe and the New World and the Minx reaction. Now, the Minx don't really have much to say. Carrot is their new leader, and we see her with Wanda, Shishi Leon, and a few others. But they're not really speaking much on it. We do see Zunisha, he's also listening, but he's also not speaking much on it because he really can't. But they're listening in. They're hearing what's going on. Also important because Zunisha's traveling around the world and Zoe being on the back of Zunisha is all specifically because of things that happened during the Void Century. So, as VegaPunk is continuing, after we see the Minx and leave the Minx and Zoe and Zunisha in the New World, we do cut over to see another cameo. It's just a little funny cameo, nothing too serious. It's the Foxy Pirates with the man Foxy himself. But it looks like they have just recently lost the Davy Back fight because it's only Foxy and two other crew members, and they're on a little boat. Foxy's grown a beard and a mustache, nice little goatee combo, I guess. But he's just calling VegaPunk a fool or saying he's peanut head and all this other stuff because he can't really believe the information that VegaPunk is dropping right now. Here's the thing though. Do you think that Oda dropping Foxy into the story during this is a hint that there is going to be another, possibly more serious Davy backfight between the crew and another crew, or just coming forward in the story? Or do you think that was a part of the flashback that's about to happen with the Rocks Pirates, or even with Joy Boy and the Void Century? Do you think a Davy backfight is something that is important to the plot of the Void Century, or the Roger Pirates? Or is it going to be something important going forward with the Straw Hat Pirates? Just a question. You can answer it in the comments or come talk to me on Twitter. We'll talk about it. But I'm not going to focus on that right here, right now. But yes, we get the Foxy Pirates, and I believe we also see the Rev and the people of Shimosuke Village, specifically Zoro's master, and they're also reacting to what's happening. They're listening to VegaPunk talk and how the world was swallowed by the ocean at this point, and I think it's interesting how it shows Shimosuke, and specifically Zoro's master, who's a descendant of Wano, because I believe he also has some kind of information on, if not the world sinking, or if not Void Century knowledge, he has information about, okay, this is possible because old Wano used to be down here, and now Wano is basically an island surrounded by a lake because of these walls that were erected. And I just want to kind of put out there that maybe amongst the Shimosuke, especially the ones who left the land of Wano, they passed down these legends and these conversations about how Wano didn't used to always be at the top of Mount Fuji. You feel me? So I just think it's interesting that they're showing them specifically. Or maybe it's just because they're showing the places that the Straw Hats, that our main crew, are connected to. You feel me? Because we do also see, I forget his name, I think it's Genzo, but the Pinwheel guy from Kokoyashi Village, and Nami's sister, Nojiko, in Kokoyashi Village. So you get a cut of them reacting, and Nojiko's not really listening. She's like, I gotta go tend to the fruits, just let me know what's going on later. So we do get that, and based off of some other places and some other reactions we see, I'm leaning towards more the latter than the former. So I'm thinking it's more so they're showing the places that are connected to our crew, the Straw Hat crew, and how they're reacting to this news. Because right after we leave Kokoyashi, we go back to VegaPunk talking for a little bit, the next reaction we get Mocktown, but that's not really important. It's just people making fun of VegaPunk, laughing, They don't really believe in shit, so they just there doing what they do. But right after Mocktown, we get the Sakura Kingdom, where King Dalton and Dr. Kureha, Dr. Reen, as Chopper calls her, aka Chopper's mom, they are discussing, like, is this even possible? Dalton's like, is this even possible? Is this true? And Kureha's like, well, basically what she boils down to her dialogue is, well, the world is full of surprises, bro. Like, even at my age, I still just keep finding shit out, so I wouldn't be surprised. So there's that. And it's always good to see the Doctorine and Dalton and the Sakura Kingdom. Like, it's always good to see them. But while VegaPunk is still talking, after we cut to the Sakura Kingdom, we do see a random cameo from Miss Golden Week and what I believe is Miss Merry Christmas from Baroque works. It might not be Miss Merry Christmas, or yeah, I think her name is Miss Merry Christmas, the Groundhog Lady. It might not be her, but we clearly see Miss Golden Week, and I'm just like, random, but okay. And I'm not against it. There are people in the background. They're pointing at a mountain, talking about that mountain is 200 meters. So you're saying like all of this would have been underwater. All of this would be underwater if another thing like that would happen. Like, stuff like that. They're just commenting on what they're hearing from VegaPunk. But Miss Golden Week, she doesn't say anything, but she's there. Weird. Anyways, right after that, we do cut to Big News Morgan's ship, where him, Vivi, and Wapple are also still listening to the news. Big News is kind of like, he's flabbergasted. He's like, what? But Vivi's like shushing him. She's trying to hear this information. She wants to know what's going on. So now we're gonna move over to 11:16. We're gonna continue to find out what's going on around the world while VegaPunk's dropping this knowledge. So VegaPunk is continuing to drop knowledge. The beginning of 11:16. Emu's looking at the picture of Lily, and then right after that, we immediately cut to Alabaster, where we see the main dudes from Alabaster. Dude, I forget his name right now. Igaram. We see Igaram. We see Pel, Chaka, and the Kingdom. And Igaram is worried for Vivi. He's looking over a picture of Vivi. He's worried about Vivi. While Chaka and Pel, they are basically presiding over what seems to be a funeral service or a remembering, a vigil for their dead leader, which is King Cobra. So while they're doing that, we also continue to hear VegaPunk's message being played, and I assume they're also listening to VegaPunk's message while these things are happening in their country. So while VegaPunk is talking, we do cut over to the Rev once more, where we get the scene where Moda and the Rev are reacting to what VegaPunk is saying. Then we get Moda further reacting to the news about why what happened to Lelucia and why the kingdom just vanished. And we get the Marine guy who was the head of the base that had the relationship, and they're both reacting on different spectrums. He's like, wow, an ancient weapon was used, and he's trying to wrap his head around like, damn, that's really what we do. And she's more distraught because that's her home. She's like, why would somebody do that? What reason would anybody have to destroy my home? So that's happening. We also get King Elizabello II. We cut over to him and his kingdom, and he's ordering somebody to go find out what's happening to Lelucia, because he had heard nothing about that. He's like, hey, somebody go check on that Lelucia news, get back to me ASAP. I need to know. So now we see how royalty really in these worlds are reacting. We see that with Momo and for Carrot, for the Minx, the royalty of Alabaster, they're having their own thing because basically everybody in their royal family is either dead or missing. Elizabello, he's like, all right, find out what's going on with that kingdom, because I ain't hear nothing about that. And as a king, I just was there at the reverie talking to the king of Lelucia, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on? So we got that happening. We then cut back to Wano country as VegaPunk is talking about the ancient weapons, and Momo is about to say something interesting about Pluton, but he gets told to shush by Kinemon. And I just think this is interesting. Very interesting. But I can't focus on Momo and the people of Wano for too long. We gotta move on. We also see Crocodile reacting to this news. And I think it's funny because The panel we get a crocodile is one panel of his face, and he seems intrigued by what he's hearing. He seems intrigued by what he's hearing. But I also think it's interesting that the side by side of the panels, how it's set up, is Momo, Kinemon talking about Pluton, and then we instantly cut over to Crocodile, who was looking for Pluton in Alabasta. Crazy, right? Crazy. I don't know what the connection is here, but I feel so strongly there's a connection or some kind of foreshadowing going on here. But you're gonna have to wait for further chapters to let us know what's going on here. But the fact that they show Crocodile specifically is interesting. So VegaPunk is continuing to talk. We then get another shot of royalty, another shot of a leader, Shirahoshi in Fishman Island, reacting to this. As VegaPunk is talking about an ancient weapon, we go see an ancient weapon. I can't say what that means at this point right now, but just know it happened. And I think it's so funny how we go from Momo talking about Pluton to seeing Crocodile, who's after Pluton. Then while talk about the ancient weapons and the world flooding is still being talked about, we cut over to the fishmen who have a living ancient weapon that's a person in Shirahoshi. But we gotta continue. So we then cut over to Laboon and Crocus. As VegaPunk is continuing his message, he's now talking about how the Roger Pirates know the true history. So we cut over to Crocus. It's a brief scene, but Crocus is there. He's looking real stoic, doesn't say anything. Laboon's looking surprised in the background. Here's the thing with Laboon. Does Laboon understand human speech fully, or is it just like a vibe thing? Because he be reacting to stuff. That's neither here nor there. That's a whole other conversation. But we do see Crocus, who was the doctor for the Roger Pirates when they found Laugh Tale. So there's that. Then, while VegaPunk is still talking, after we get the stuff with York and the Iron Giant, VegaPunk continues. He asks why the Roger Pirates didn't act, why they didn't tell anybody. And then we cut to Shocky's bar, where Shocky's yelling at Rayleigh because he's getting drunk. Rayleigh thinks. So this is the response that I was speaking of earlier, when VegaPunk is asking the questions, why did the Roger Pirates not do anything? Why did not say anything? Yes, we as readers have an answer, but here's an answer from Rayleigh himself. So Rayleigh says, now he is just a washed up old man. Just like VegaPunk is an old geezer who's talking too much, or who has already talked too much. He's saying, don't be an ass and take it away from the youngsters. The chapter ends with Rayleigh saying, the thrill is theirs now to seek. Right, Roger? So, from that, Rayleigh is saying, to me, this is what I'm getting from this. Rayleigh is saying, hey, I'm an old man. Like the time where we found Laugh Tale, where we found out the treasure, or the true history and the treasure that was at Laugh Tale, Joy Boy's treasure, it was too early. We know they were too early, and they couldn't act. Shirahoshi wasn't born. There was a number of reasons they were too early. Rayleigh's saying, now is the time, but now I'm old. All of us are old. Roger is dead. You're also old. And I get that you're speaking on what you think is best for what needs to happen to the world, but right now, what we need to do is leave it to the next generation. And he's saying, right, Roger, because that is what Roger did. He saw that he was too early to make a change, to act on this information, to do anything. And he left it to the next generation. And Rayleigh here is agreeing with him. He's like, this is for the next generation to do. This isn't a problem that our generation, us old men, are going to fix. But we must continue. There's a few more things I want to talk about in the chapter. I want to talk about the emotional through line for these chapters, which heavy stuff. It's really like existential stuff if you really get into it. But we gotta talk about that, and then we're gonna talk about what everyone else on the Straw Hat crew is doing while VegaPunk's delivering this message and what's going on. So we're gonna get into those two parts, and then I'll be back to talk to you for a second, and then we're gonna get out of here. So going back to 11:15. While VegaPunk is dropping all this knowledge, while he is just dropping lore after lore, while we're getting these reactions from the elders, from royalty, from allies, from enemies, from the world in general, we cut to Stussy and Kaku, who are talking with Edison. They're still up in the Labostratum, but this is like kind of the emotional through line for these couple chapters, at least to me, because everything else is such on a grandiose scale. Like everything else is, oh, this is what's happening to the world. This is lore that needs to be told to the people, and we're getting reactions from the people. But to keep it grounded in an emotional sense, we got this interaction that's gonna span these next two chapters. So, the start of the interaction, we cut back to Stussy and Kaku. They're in the Labostratum, and Edison calls Stussy, and he tells her that she can lower the barrier and escape. And though Stussy starts to protest, talking about, well, who's going to make sure that nothing bad happens to the Straw Hats? Like, what's going on? Edison says that it's no point in keeping the barrier up when there are monsters on the island that can ignore it. And he's talking about the 5 elders, because they clearly just go in and out of the barrier as they please. He continues that they've done all they can for the Straw Hats, and that he is sure that they will make it. Now, that's just the beginning of the interaction. So, right now, Stussy's still trying to do her job. She's still trying to make sure that what the Straw Hats were planning to do, which was get VegaPunk off the island. They do have Atlas, and they have Stella main body, and they have Lilla. So as long as one of those two get off the island, she's done her job in protecting VegaPunk, which is essentially her father. So that's happening. When we cut back to them, Stussy tells Edison that she's relieved. She was worried that Stella would never forgive her if they were caught. To which Edison replies, as if, now you go on and get out of there. But here's where we start getting to the real emotional stuff when it comes to Stussy. Stussy replies to Edison that she doesn't know what to do with herself, saying that now that the main Stella VegaPunk is dead, who is she meant to live for, and that she doesn't really have a purpose now. And while she's saying this, we see Kaku, and he's visibly affected by this. Like, he looks sad. Like, he looks saddened to hear Stussy say this. And I don't know if it's out of pity, like he's like, damn, this is just sad. Like, this is sad for you. Or if it's out of like a sense of sympathy or empathy, whichever. Or if he can just relate to the feeling, because as someone who's raised to be an assassin and was once kicked out of that life and was working at galley law, he was like, damn, I really wanted, like, maybe I could be a shipwright for real. But nah. Because he chose to follow the assassin life, he lost out on that chance. And he may get that chance again. But maybe I'm just saying, like, from the look on Kaku's face when he hears Stussy say this, I feel like he kind of relates to not knowing what his purpose in life is and not having a solid path forward. So keep going with the interactions. VegaPunk's still talking. He's still dropping his message. He's still doing what he said he's done to carry on the will of O'Hara and try and keep that alive. And that's all we get from Stussy, Edison, and Kaku in 11:15. As we cut to 11:16, while Edison is still, talking to Stussy, he has a brief conversation with Nami, which we're gonna get to after this. But as he's still talking to Stussy, Edison tells her once again to get out of there because of some things that have just happened currently in the story. Where we're at in the story right now in 11:16, Nostradamus has cut the bottom of the lava phase off, and Edison is reporting to Nami about the things that have happened, and that's why he's now telling Stussy, hey man, you gotta get out of here. So Stussy, in response to this, asked Edison if she could free Kaku because she doesn't want him to suffer the consequences of this. And this shocks both Edison and Kaku. And she continues that she won't let him pursue the Straw Hats, but she doubts that's the top of his priority list right now. You know what I'm saying? Now it's time to survive. Now is not the time to try and track down the Straw Hats and do all this. There's a Buster call going on. There's an Iron Giant walking around. The 5 others are killing anything that moves, or trying to kill anything that moves. So, you might want to prioritize your own safety at this point. So, Edison responds to Stussy's request, and he gives his approval on that. But more than that, he apologizes. Since Edison is a part of VegaPunk, the main body, he's an aspect of VegaPunk, he, in a way, is still Stussy's father, or an aspect of her creator or dad. So he apologized to her. He's like, hey, I'm sorry for putting you in this position to betray your friends, because I didn't realize you saw these people as your actual friends. Yes, you rescued us despite being torn, and honestly, the fact that you're still having inner turmoil or inner conflict is the proof of your humanity. He tells her that she can do what she pleases and that she wants her to keep on living. And I just think this is really touching because, one, Edison's a robot. So this is a robot aspect of your creator who was once a human. You know he was a human. You saw VegaPunk, the main body. But I just find it interesting that the robot clone, the robot part, the robot satellite of VegaPunk is the one telling the clone that she actually has value as a person, that she actually has humanity inside her. I think that's interesting. It's an interesting thing because, like, this person, this clone, Stussy, she was living her life thinking her purpose was for VegaPunk, living for this one person. Now that this person is dead, having an aspect of that person tell you, hey, no, you're your own person. You're a human. You're a person in yourself. And I want you to have a good life for you. It's real sweet. I'll just say that. It's real wholesome. So, I believe that is the last of that conversation, but it is what I consider to be the emotional through line for these 2 chapters. While everything else is so grand of a scale, you're getting lore drops about the void century, the planet being drowned by 200 meters. You're finding out about ancient weapons, mother flames, all of this stuff. But the heart of these 2 chapters is Stussy confirming her humanity and being told, yeah, you are a person. You deserve to have your own life. You feel me? So that's real wholesome. That happens. And now we are on the final part of these two chapters review, or talking, with discussion. We'll call it a discussion. The Sly Report discussion, special edition. But now that we're done with that part, we gotta go back to 11:15, and now we're gonna go through 11:15, 11:16, and we're gonna discuss what the Straw Hats are doing while all of this is happening. So let's do that. So for 11:15, the first sight we see of a Straw Hat pirate crew member is the captain himself. We see Luffy Gear 5 still running from Warcury with Dory and Broggy. So, that's happening. They're making their way towards the ship. Warcury's either gonna catch them and keep trying to fight with them, or he's gonna peel off and go towards the Iron Giant, as we find out that that's where their transponder is in 11:16. But here in 11:15, just to start off with, he's still after Luffy. Yes, he's mad at VegaPunk, but his main focus right now is chasing Luffy. Alright. Also at 11:15, we do get Zoro and Jinbei. So we cut over to Zoro and Jinbei. Jinbei is talking to Nami on those little headphone joints, having a conversation. And Jinbei is apologizing to Nami, saying that they're almost there, that they're on the way, because Nami's like, where are you guys at? And Jinbei's like, we're almost there, we're going to be there soon. And he's apologizing. And Zoro chimes in and he's like, you ain't got nothing to apologize for. We were busy. Like, what are they doing? So Nami replies to that, and she's like, hey, hurry it up. And, tell Zoro he's going to get it. Because the Marines are moving, trying to blockade the northeast coast. The coast they're trying to escape from to head to Elbaf. And that she will not forgive Zoro if they get blasted out of the water. So while that's happening, we then cut over to Edison and Stussy, and they're having their conversation. That's 11:15. And then after we see the conversation between Edison and Stussy going on, we cut over to where Bonnie, Frankie, and them are at, and they're doing their little tussle with Nasujuro, as I said during the Elder section. So they're tussling with Nasujuro. Bonnie and them are doing all of that. And Bonnie, Alice, Frankie, Oimoi, Kashi, Sanji, and VegaPunk's main body are all there. And the people who are up fighting right now are Oimoy Kashi, Sanji, Bonnie, Frankie, and they're all trying to take on Nasajuro. So that's happening, and that's where that section of Straw Hat contingent is. So as that is happening, we do not hear from any more of the Straw Hats for the rest of 11:15. But as we go into 11:16, we get Nami up on the lava stratum. We don't see Usopp, Chopper, Robin, Brooke, Lilith. We don't see any of them. We just see Nami. And Nami is talking to Edison, and she's like, what's going on? And there was just a huge quake type thing going on. Like, what's happening? And that's when Edison informs her of the basement of the lava stratum being dropped completely to the floor of the island by being cut. And Nami's like, what's happening? How did that happen? And Edison's like, well, I guess another monstrous elder is on his way up here, or on his way up there. And that's when he cuts back to his conversation with Stussy, telling her to get out and, trying to get her to understand her worth as a human. So that's all we get from the Straw Hats so far, I believe. The rest of this is the rest of chapter 11:16 is just mostly to the VegaPunk's message. We do cut to different places around the world in that chapter as well, as I mentioned earlier. But that is mostly all we get from the Straw Hats in these two chapters. We see Luffy, Zoro, Jinbei, Sanji, Frankie, Bonnie, Atlas, and Nami. And that's about it. I'm pretty sure that the rest of the crew up there with Nami is doing what they gotta do to move the ship and all of that. And what we don't see from Luffy and Zoro and Jinbei, we just assume they're all making their way towards where they need to be. Luffy and them are headed toward the northeast coast, and Nami and them are up there waiting on Jinbei, waiting for them to get there so they can move down this cloudway that Edison has made to get them off the island. So this is where everybody is at. This is how things are going in these two chapters, and I really just wanted to come and talk to you and focus on each part specifically and break down why I see how I see what is happening in these parts specifically for this story. So I would like to thank you for joining us on today's special double edition Sly Report discussion. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we will see you next time. Also, don't forget to let me know how you like this format of the Sly Report being done this way, where we break down the chapter in a different type of what's going on, like the message, the reactions from one side, the reactions from the world, and then what the Straw Hats are doing, and the emotional through line, which was the Stussy stuff. So if you like the way I'm breaking down the chapter this way, and you want to see the panels return up there in the corner like I usually be doing, then let me know. But I feel like this is the way we're going to do things moving forward with the chapter reviews. I'm going to try and get back on the consistent schedule of doing it every week when a chapter comes out. But for the weeks that I am busy or something happens, or because life happens, I'm going to come to next week with a double edition, just like I did this week in for the previous two chapters as well. So as I said, thank you for joining us on today's Sly Report. I'm Gold D Reigns, first mate of the Gold Fang crew. This has been the Sly Report, and I hope you have a lovely day.